I'm Ashley Werdeman, and on behalf of the cast, I welcome you to PYGMALION by Equality Productions. We at Equality Productions ask that you show your appreciation for our actors' talent by making a donation of money and/or time to a local theater on behalf of an actor in the show or on behalf of Equality Productions. This production is dedicated to all of those affected by the coronavirus. We send our gratitude to the hospital personnel, the EMTs, the firefighters, and the police officers. We offer our prayers to those that have been affected by the virus. Hashtag keep the faith because it will get better. So, on with the show. Act 1. The setting is Covent Garden at 11:15 p.m. Because of a heavy summer rain, pedestrians are running for shelter into the market and under the portico of St. Paul's Church, where there are already several people, among them a lady and her daughter. The church clock strikes. Let's join Mrs. Hill and Miss Hill as they wait for Freddie to find a cab. I'm getting chilled to the bone. Where can Freddie be all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Not so long, but he ought to have got us a cab by this.
He won't get no cab. Not till 11:30, missus, when they come back after dropping their theatre fares.
We must have a cab. We can't stand here until 11:30. It's too bad.
Oh, it ain't my fault, missus.
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have got to on the theatre door.
What could he have done, poor boy?
Well, other people got cabs. Why couldn't he? Well, haven't you got a cab?
It's not one to be had for love or money.
Freddie, there must have been one. You can't have tried.
Oh, it's too tiresome. Do you expect us to go out and get one ourselves?
I tell you, they're all engaged. The rain was so sudden and nobody was prepared, and everybody had to take a cab. I to Charing Cross one way, nearly to Ludgate Circus the other, and I tell you, they're all engaged.
Well, did you try Trafalgar Square?
There wasn't one at Trafalgar Square.
Did you try?
Tried as far as Charing Cross Station. Do you expect me to walk to Hammersmith?
Oh, you haven't tried at all.
You really are very hopeless, Freddie. Go again and don't come back till you have a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
And what about us? Are we to stay out here all night in this draught with next to nothing on? You selfish pig!
Oh, very well, I'll go.
Oh, now then, Freddie, look where you're going, dear.
Sorry.
There's manners for you. Two bunch of violets trod into the mud. Oh.
How do you know my son's name is Freddie, pray?
Oh, is your son, is he? Well, if you'd done your duty as a mother, surely you'd know better than to spoil poor girl's flowers and run away without paying. Will you pay me for them?
Oh, do nothing of the sort, Mother. The idea.
Please allow me, Clara. Have you any pennies?
No, I've nothing smaller than a sixpence.
I can give you change for a tenner, my lady.
Give it to me. For your flowers.
Thank you kindly, lady.
Now.
Make her give you change. Those things are only a penny a bunch.
Do hold your tongue, Clara. You can keep the change.
Oh, thank you, lady.
Now, tell me how you know that young gentleman's name.
I didn't.
I heard you call him by it. Don't try to deceive me.
Who's trying to deceive you? I called him Freddie or Charlie, same as you might yourself if you was talking to a stranger and wished to be pleasant.
Sixpence thrown away. Really, Mamma, you might have spared Freddie that.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
If it's worse, it's a sign it's nearly over, so cheer up, Captain, and buy a flower off a poor girl.
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
Well, I can give you change, Captain.
For a sovereign, I've nothing less.
Gosh, do buy a flower off me, Captain. I can change half a crown. Take this for tuppence.
No, don't be troublesome. There's a good girl. I really haven't got any change. Oh, stop. There's tapence, if that's any use to you.
Thank you, sir.
Be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke here behind taking down every blessed word you're saying.
I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I've a right to sell flowers if I keep to the curb. I'm a respectable girl, so help me. I never spoke to him except to ask him to buy a flower off me. Sir, don't let him charge me. You don't know what it means to me. They'll take away my character and drive me on the streets for speaking to gentlemen.
There. Who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
All right, he's a gentleman. Look at his boots. She thought you was a copper's knock, sir.
What's a copper's knock?
It's a copper's knock, as you might say. What else would you call it? A sort of informer.
I take my Bible oath. I never said a word.
Oh, shut up. Do I look like a policeman?
What did you take down my word for? How do I know you took me down right? You just show me what you wrote about me. What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
Well, I can. Cheer up, Captain, and haul your flower off a poor gal.
It's because I called him Captain. I meant no harm. No, sir, don't let him lay a charge against me for a word like that. You...
Charge? I make no charge. Really, sir, if you are a detective, you need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. Anyone could see that the girl meant no harm.
He ain't a tech. He's a bloomin' busybody, that's what he is. I tell ya, look at his boots.
And how are your people down in Selsey?
Who told you my people come from Selsey?
Never you mind, they did. How do you come up so far east? You were born in Listen Grove.
Oh, what harm is there in my leaving Listen Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to pay 4 and 6 a week. Oh.
Live where you like. Just stop that noise.
Come, he can't touch you. You have a right to be here and live where you please.
Park Lane, for instance. I'd like to go in the housing question with you, I would.
I'm a good girl, I am.
Do you know where I come from?
Hoxton.
Well, who said I didn't? Blimey, you know everything, you do.
Ain't no call to meddle with me, he ain't.
Of course he ain't. Don't you stand it from him. See here, what call of you to know about people what never offered to meddle with you? Where's your warrant?
Let him say what he likes. I don't want to have no truck with him.
You take us for dirt under your feet, don't you? Catch you taking liberties with a gentleman.
Yeah, tell him where he comes from if you want to go fortune telling.
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India.
Quite right. May I ask, sir, do you do this for your living at a music hall?
I've thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
He's no gentleman, he ain't, to mess with a poor girl.
What on earth is Freddie doing? I shall get pneumonia if I stay on this draught any longer.
Earl's Court.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Oh, did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to, I beg your pardon. Your mother's Epsom, unmistakably.
How very curious. I was brought up in Large Lady Park near Epsom.
What a devil of a name. Oh, excuse me. Oh, you want a cab, do you?
Don't dare speak to me.
Oh, please, Clara. Clara. We should be so grateful if you could find us a cab. Oh, thank you.
There, I knowed he was a plainclothes copper.
That ain't a police whistle. That's a sporting whistle.
He's no right to take away my character. My character is the same to me as to any lady.
I don't know whether you've noticed it, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago.
So it has. Why didn't you say so before? And us losing our time listening to your silliness.
I could tell where you come from. You come from Adwell. Go back there.
Hanwell.
Thank you, teacher. Ha ha. So long.
Frightening people like that. How would he like it himself?
It's quite fine now, Clara. We can walk to a motor bus. Come.
But the cab? Oh, how tiresome.
Poor girl. Odd enough for her to live without being worrited and chivvied.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession. Also my hobby. Happy is the man who can make a living by his hobby. You can spot an Irishman or a Yorkshireman by his brogue. I can place a man within 6 miles. I can place him within 2 miles in London, sometimes within 2 streets.
He ought to be ashamed of himself. Unmanly coward.
But is there a living in that?
Oh, yes, quite a fat one. This is the age of upstarts. Men begin in Kentish Town with £80 a year and end in Park Lane with 100,000. They want to drop Kentish Town, but they give themselves away every time they open their mouths. Now I can teach them how to...
Let him mind his own business and leave a poor girl.
Woman, cease this detestable boo-hooing instantly, or else seek the shelter of some other place of worship.
I have a right to be here if I like, same as you.
A woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human being with a soul and a divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and the Bible, and don't sit there crooning like a bilious pigeon. Oh, heavens, what a sound! Ow, ow, ow.
Oh, God.
You see this creature with her curbstone English, the English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Well, sir, in 3 months I could pass that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as a lady's maid or a shop assistant, which requires better English. That's the type of thing I do for commercial millionaires. And on the profits of it, I do genuine scientific research in phonetics, and a little as a poet on Miltonic lines.
I am myself a student of Indian dialects, and
Are you? Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of Spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Where do you live?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm at the Carlton. Come with me now and let's have a jaw over some supper.
Right you are.
Do you buy a flower off a poor girl, kind gentleman? I'm short for my lodging.
I really haven't any change. I'm sorry.
Liar, you said you could change half a crown.
You ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Take the whole blooming basket for 6p.
Oh dear. A reminder. Yeah.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Got one at last. Hello. Where are the 2 ladies that were here?
They walked to the bus when the rain stopped.
And left me with a cab on my hands. Damnation!
Never you mind, young man. I'm going home in a taxi. 8p ain't no object to me, Charlie. Ooh, Angel Court, Drury Lane, round the corner of Mickle John's oil shop. Let's see how fast you can make her hop.
Well, I'm dashed.
We are at Higgins' laboratory on Wimpole Street at 11 a.m. the next day. Pickering is seated at the table and puts down a tuning fork. Higgins is closing his file drawers. Let's see what Higgins and Pickering discuss after their adventure at Covent Gardens.
Well, I think that's the whole show.
It's really amazing. I haven't taken in half of it, you know.
Would you like to go over any of it again?
No, thank you, not now. I'm quite done up for this morning.
Tired of listening to old sounds.
Yes, it's a fearful strain. I rather fancied myself because I can pronounce 24 distinct vowel sounds, but your 130 beat me. I can't hear a bit of difference between them.
Oh, it comes with practice. You hear no difference at first, but you keep on listening, and presently you find they're as different as A from B. What's the matter?
A young woman wants to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl, sir. Very common indeed. I should have sent her away, only I thought perhaps you wanted her just talking to one of your machines. I hope I've not done wrong, sir, but you really see such queer people sometimes. You'll excuse me? Sure, I'm sure, sir.
Oh, that's all right, Mrs. Pierce. Has she an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir. Really. I don't know how you can take an interest in it.
Let's have her up. Show her in, Mrs. Pierce.
Very well, sir. It's for you to say.
This is quite a bit of luck. I'll show you how I make records. We'll set her talking, and I'll take it down in first Bell's visible speech, and then in broad Romic, and then we'll get her on the phonograph so you can turn her on as often as you like with the written transcript before you.
This is the young woman, sir.
Oh, why, this is the girl I jotted down last night. She's of no use. I've got all the records I want of Listen Grove lingo, and I'm not going to waste another cylinder on it. Be off with you. I don't want you.
Don't you be so saucy. You ain't heard what I've come for yet. You tell him I come in a taxi.
Nonsense, girl. What do you think? A gentleman like Mr. Higgins cares what you came in.
Ooh, we are proud. He ain't above giving lessons, not him, I heard him say so. Well, I ain't come here to ask for any compliment, and if my money's not good enough, I can go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
Good enough for you. Now you know, don't you? I've come to have lessons, I am, and to pay for 'em too, make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you was a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down, I think. Didn't I tell you I'm bringing you business?
Pickering, shall we show this baggage out? Shall we ask her to sit down? Or shall we throw her out the window?
Oh, I won't be called baggage when I've offered to pay like any lady.
What is it you want, my girl?
I want to be a lady in a flower shop instead of selling at the corner of Tottenham Court Road, but they won't take me unless I can talk more genteel. He said he could teach me. Well, here I am, ready to pay, not asking any favor, and he treats me as if I was dirt.
How can you be such a foolish, ignorant girl as to think you could afford to pay Mr. Higgins?
Why shouldn't I? I know what lessons cost as well as you do, and I'm ready to pay.
How much?
Now you're talking. I thought you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting it back a little what you chucked at me last night. You had a drop in it, hadn't you?
Sit down.
Oh, if you're gonna make a compliment of it.
Sit down.
Sit down, girl. Do as you're told.
No.
Won't you sit down?
Don't mind if I do.
What's your name?
Liza Doolittle.
Eliza. Elizabeth. Betsy and Bess. They went to the woods to get a bird's nest.
They found a nest with 4 eggs in it.
They took one apiece and left 3 in it.
Don't be silly.
You mustn't speak to the gentleman like that.
Well, why won't they speak sensible to me?
Come back to business. How much do you propose to pay me for the lessons?
Oh, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets French lessons for 18 pence an hour from a real French gentleman. Well, you wouldn't have the face to ask me the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French, so I won't give more than a shilling. Take it or leave it.
You know, Pickering, if you consider a shilling not a simple shilling, but as a percentage of this girl's income, it works out as fully equivalent to 60 or 70 guineas from a millionaire.
How so?
Oh, figure it out. A millionaire has about £150 a day. She earns about half a crown.
Who told you I only earn
She
half a crown?
offers me 2/5 of her day's income for a lesson. 2/5 of a millionaire's income for a day would be somewhere about £60. It's handsome. By George, it's enormous. It's the best offer I've ever had.
£60? Who told? What are you talking about? I never offered you £60. Where would I get?
Hold your tongue.
But I ain't got £60. Oh.
Don't cry, you silly girl. Nobody's going to touch your money.
Somebody is going to touch you with a broomstick if you don't stop sniveling. Sit down.
Oh. One would think you was my father.
If I decide to treat you, I'll be worse than 2 fathers. Here,
What's this for?
to wipe your eyes, to wipe any part of your face that feels moist. Remember, that's your handkerchief, and that's your sleeve. Don't mistake one for the other if you wish to become a lady in a flower shop.
It's no use talking to her like that, Mr. Higgins. She doesn't understand you. Besides, you're quite wrong. She doesn't do it that way at all.
You give me that handkerchief. He gave it to me, not you.
He did. I think it must be regarded as her property, Mrs. Pierce.
Serve you right, Mr. Higgins.
Higgins, I'm interested. What about the ambassador's garden party? I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you make that good. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment you can't do it. And I'll pay for the lessons.
Oh, you are real good. Thank you, Captain.
It's almost irresistible. She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty.
Oh, I ain't dirty. I washed my face and hands before I come, I did.
You're certainly not going to turn her head with flattery, Higgins.
Oh, don't say that, sir. There's more than one way of turning a girl's head, and nobody can do it better than Mr. Higgins, though he may not always mean it. I do hope, sir, you won't encourage him to do anything foolish.
What is life but a series of inspired follies? The difficulty is to find them to do. Never lose a chance. It doesn't come every day. I shall make a duchess of this draggle-tailed gutter snipe.
No!
Yes, in 6 months. In 3 if she has a good ear and a quick tongue. I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We'll start today, now, this moment. Take her away and clean her, Mrs. Pierce. Monkey brand if it won't come off any other way. Is there a good fire in the kitchen?
Well, yes, but I can't
Take all
just...
the clothes off and burn them. Ring up Whiteley or somebody else for new ones. Wrap her in brown paper till they come.
You're no gentleman. You're not to talk of such things. I'm a good girl, I am, and I know what the likes of you are, I do.
We want none of your Listen Grove prudery here, young woman. You've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Mrs. Pierce. If she gives you any trouble, wallop her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
But I've no place to put her.
Put her in the dustbin.
Oh!
Higgins, be reasonable.
You must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins. Really, you must. You can't walk all over everybody like this.
I walk over everybody. My dear Mrs. Pierce, my dear Pickering, I never had the slightest intention of walking over anyone. All I propose is that we should be kind to this poor girl. We must help her prepare and fit herself to a new station in life. If I did not express myself clearly, it was because I did not wish to hurt her delicacy or yours.
Well, did you ever hear anything like that, sir?
Never, Mrs. Pierce, never.
What's the matter?
Well, the matter is, sir, that you can't take a girl up like that as if you were picking up a pebble on a beach.
Why not?
Why not? But you don't know anything about her. What about her parents? She could be married.
God.
There. As the girl very properly says, gone, married indeed. Don't you know that a woman of that class looks a worn-out drudge of 50 a year when she's married?
Who'd marry me?
By George, Eliza, the streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves for your sake before I'm done with you.
Nonsense, sir. You mustn't talk to her like that.
I'm going away. He's off his chumpy ears, and I don't want no bombies teaching me.
Oh, indeed. I'm mad, am I? Very well, Mrs. Pierce. You needn't order the clothes for her. Throw her out.
No! You got no right to touch me.
Well, you see now what comes of being saucy. This way, please.
Well, I didn't want no clothes. I wouldn't have taken them. I can buy my own clothes.
You're an ungrateful, wicked girl. This is my return for offering to take you out of the gutter and dress you beautifully and make a lady of you?
Stop. Mr. Higgins, I won't allow it. You're the one that is wicked. Now, go home to your parents, girl, and tell them to take better care of you.
I ain't got no parents. They told me I was big enough to earn my own living and turned me out.
Where's your mother?
I ain't got no mother. That turned me out was my sixth stepmother. But I'm done without 'em, and I'm a good girl, I am.
Very well, then. What on earth is all the fuss about? The girl doesn't belong to anybody, is no use to anybody but me. You can adopt her, Mrs. Pierce. I'm sure a daughter would be of great amusement to you. Now, don't make any more fuss. Take her downstairs and...
But what's to become of her? Is she to be paid anything? Do be sensible, sir.
Oh, pay her whatever is necessary. Put it in the housekeeping book. What on earth will she want with money? She'll have her food, she'll have her clothes. She'll only drink if you give her money.
Oh, you are a brute. It's a lie. No one ever saw the sign of liquor on me.
Does it occur to you, Higgins, that the girl has some feelings?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Not any feelings we need bother about. Have you, Eliza?
I got my feelings same as anyone else.
You see the difficulty?
What difficulty?
To get her to talk grammar. The mere pronunciation is easy enough.
I don't want to talk grammar. I want to talk like a lady.
Will you please keep to the point, Mr. Higgins? I want to know on what terms the girl is to be here. Is she to have any wages? And what's to become of her when you've finished your teaching? You must look ahead a little.
What's to become of her if I leave her in the gutter? Tell me that, Mrs. Pierce.
Well, that's her own business, not yours, Mr. Higgins.
Well, when I'm done with her, we can throw her back into the gutter, and then it will be her own business again. So that's all right.
Oh, you've no feeling art in you. You don't care for nothing but yourself. I've had enough of this. I'm going. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought.
Have some chocolates, Eliza.
How do I know that what might be in them? I've heard of girls being drugged by the likes of you.
Pledge of good faith. I eat half and you eat the other half. You shall have boxes of them, barrels of them every day. You shall live on them, eh?
I wouldn't have ate it. Only I'm too ladylike to take it out of my mouth.
Listen, Eliza, I think you said you came in a taxi.
Well, what if I did? I've as good a right to take a taxi as anyone else.
You have, Eliza, and in future you shall have many taxis as you want. You shall go up and down and round the town in a taxi every day. Think of that, Eliza.
Mr. Higgins, you're tempting the girl. It's not right. She should think of the future.
At her age, nonsense. Time enough to think of the future when you haven't any future to think of. No, Eliza. Do as this lady does. Think of other people's futures, but never think of your own. Think of chocolates and taxis and gold and diamonds.
Oh, no, I don't want no gold and no diamonds. I'm a good girl, I am.
You shall remain so, Eliza, under the care of Mrs. Pierce. And you shall marry an officer in the Guards with a beautiful moustache, the son of a marquis, who will disinherit him for marrying you, but will relent when he sees your beauty and your goodness.
Excuse me, Higgins, but I really must interfere. Mrs. Pierce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hands for 6 months for an experiment in teaching, she must understand thoroughly what she's doing.
But how can she? She's incapable of understanding anything. Besides, do any of us understand what we are doing? If we did, would we ever do it?
Very clever, Higgins, but not sound sense. Miss Doolittle.
Oh!
There. That's all you're going to get out of Eliza. Oh! No use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her her orders. That's what she wants. Eliza, you are to live here for the next 6 months, learning how to speak beautifully, like a lady in a florist shop. If you're good and you do what you're told, you shall sleep in a proper bedroom and have lots to eat and money to buy chocolates and take rides in taxis. If you're naughty and idle, you will sleep in the back kitchen amongst the black beetles and be walloped by Mrs. Pierce with a broomstick. At the end of 6 months, you shall go to Buckingham Palace in a carriage, beautifully dressed. If the king finds out you're not a lady, you will be taken by the police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off as a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you are not found out, you shall have a present of 7 and 6pence to start your life as a lady in a flower shop. If you refuse this offer, you will be the most ungrateful and wicked girl, and the angels will weep for you. Now, are you satisfied, Pickering? Can I put it any more plainly, Mrs. Pierce?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl properly in private. I don't know that I can charge of her consent to an arrangement like that. Of course, I know you don't mean her any harm, but when you get what you called interested in a person's accent, you never care what may happen to them or to you. Come on, Eliza.
That's all right. Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
You're a great bully, you are. I won't stay here if I don't like. I won't let nobody wallop me. I never asked to go to Buckingham Palace, I didn't. I was never in trouble with the police, not me. I'm a good girl.
Don't answer back, girl. You don't understand the gentleman. Come with me.
Well, what I say is right. I won't go near the king, not if I'm going to have my head cut off. I'd have known what I was letting myself in for. I wouldn't have come here. I've always been a good girl, and I never offered to say a word to him, and I don't owe him nothing, and I don't care, and I won't be put upon. I have my feelings, same as everybody
Excuse the straight
else.
question, Higgins. Are you a man of good character where women are concerned?
Have you ever met a man of good character where women are concerned?
Yes, frequently.
Well, I haven't. I find that the moment I let a woman make friends with me, she becomes jealous, exacting, suspicious, and a damn nuisance. I find that the moment I myself make friends with a woman, I become selfish and tyrannical. Women upset everything. When you let them into your life, you find that the woman is driving at one thing and you're driving at another.
At what, for example?
Oh, Lord knows. I suppose the woman wants to live her life and the man wants to live his, and each tries to drag the other on the wrong track. One wants to go north and the other wants to go south, and the result is they both have to go east, though they both hate the east wind. So here I am, a confirmed old bachelor and likely to remain so.
Come, Higgins, you know what I mean. If I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's understood that no advantage is to be taken of her position.
What, that thing? Sacred, I assure you. You see, she'll be a pupil, and teaching would be impossible unless pupils were sacred. I've taught scores of American millionairesses how to speak English, the best-looking women in the world. I'm seasoned. They might as well be blocks of wood. I might as well be a block of wood. It's... Well, Mrs. Pierce, is it all right?
I just wish to trouble you with a word, if I may, sir.
Yes, certainly. Come in. Oh, don't burn that, Mrs. Pierce. I'll keep it as a curiosity.
Handle it carefully, sir. I had to promise her not to burn it, but I had better put it in the oven for a while.
Thank you. Well, what have you to say to me?
Am I in the way?
Oh, not at all, sir. Mr. Higgins, will you please be very particular on what you say before the girl?
Oh, of course. I'm always particular about what I say. Why do you say
No.
this to me?
No, sir. You are not at all particular when you've mislaid anything or when you get a little impatient. Now, it doesn't matter before me. I'm used to it. But you really must not swear before the girl.
I swear, I never swear. I detest the habit. What the devil do you mean?
That's what I mean, sir. You swear a great deal too much. I don't mind your damning and blasting and what the devil and who the devil and where the devil and...
Really, Mrs. Pierce, this language from your lips.
But there is a certain word that I must ask you not to use. The girl has just used it herself because the bath was too hot. It begins with the same letter as bath. She knows no better. She learnt it at her mother's knee, but she must not hear it from your lips.
I cannot charge myself with having ever uttered it, Mrs. Pierce, except perhaps in a moment of extreme and justifiable excitement.
Only this morning, sir, you applied it to your boots, to the butter, and to the brown bread.
Oh, that. Mere alliteration, Mrs. Pierce, natural to a poet.
Well, sir, whatever you choose to call it, I beg you not to let the girl hear you repeat it.
Oh, very well, very well. Is that all?
No, sir. We shall have to be very particular with this girl as to personal cleanliness.
Certainly, quite right, most important.
I mean, not to be slovenly about her dress or untidy and leaving things about.
Just so. I intend to call your attention to that. It is the little things that matter, Pickering. Take care of the pence and the pounds will take care of themselves is as true for personal habits as of money.
Yes, sir. Then might I ask you not to come down to breakfast in your dressing gown, or at any rate, and not to use it as a napkin, or to the extent you do. And if you would be so good as to not eat everything off the same plate, and to remember not to put the porridge saucepan out of your hand on the clean tablecloth, it would be a better example to the girl. You know you nearly choked yourself with a fish bone in the jam only last week.
I may do these things sometimes in absence of mine, but surely I don't do them habitually. And by the way, my dressing gown smells most damnably of benzene.
No doubt it does, Mr. Higgins. But if you will wipe your fingers, then...
Oh, very well, very well. I'll wipe them in my hair in future.
I hope you're not offended, Mr. Higgins.
Not at all, not at all. You're quite right, Mrs. Pierce. I shall be particularly careful before the girl. Is that all?
No, sir. Might she use some of those Japanese dresses you brought back from abroad? I really can't put her in her old things.
Certainly anything you like. Is that all?
Thank you, sir. That's all.
You know, Pickering, that woman has the most extraordinary ideas about me. Here I am, shy, diffident sort of man. I've never been able to feel really grown up and tremendous like other chaps. And yet she's firmly persuaded that I'm an arbitrary, overbearing, bossing kind of person. I can't account for it.
If you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already. There's a dustman downstairs, Alfred Doolittle, wants to see you. Says you have his daughter.
Whew! I say.
Send the blackguard up.
Oh, very well, sir.
He may not be a blackguard, Higgins.
Oh, nonsense. Of course he's a blackguard.
Well, whether he is or not, I'm afraid we shall have some trouble with him.
Oh, no, I think not. If there's any trouble, he shall have it with me, not I with him. And we are sure to get something interesting out of him.
About the girl?
No, I mean his dialect.
Doolittle, sir.
Professor Higgins.
Here. Good morning. Sit down.
Good morning, Governor. I come about a very serious matter, Governor.
Brought up in Hounslow. Mother Welsh, I should think. What do you want, Doolittle?
I want me daughter. That's what I want. See?
Of course you do. You're her father, aren't you? You don't suppose anyone else wants her, do you? I'm glad to see you have some spark of family feeling left. She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
Well, what?
Take her away. Do you suppose I'm going to keep your daughter for you?
Oh, no. Look here, Governor. Is this reasonable? Is it fair to take advantage of a man like this? The girl belongs to me. You got her. Where do I come in?
Your daughter had the audacity to come into my house and ask me to teach her how to speak properly so that she could get a place in a flower shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper have been here the entire time. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me? You sent her here on purpose.
Oh, no, Governor, not me.
You must have. How else could you possibly know that she was here?
Well, I don't take a man up like that, Governor.
The police shall take you up. This is a plant. A plot to extort money by threats. I shall telephone the police.
If I asked you for a brass farthing, I'd leave it to the gentleman here. If I said a word about money.
Well, what else did you come here for?
Well, what would a man come for, Governor? Be human.
Alfred, did you put her up to it?
Oh, so help me, Governor, I never did. I take me Bible oath that I ain't seen the girl these 2 months past.
Then how did you know she was here?
Well, I'll tell you, Governor. If you'll only let me get a word in, I'm willing to tell you, I'm wanting to tell you, I'm waiting to tell you.
Pickering, this chap has the certain natural gift of rhetoric. Observe the rhythm of his native wood tones wild. I'm willing to tell you. I'm wanting to tell you. I'm waiting to tell you. Sentimental rhetoric. That's the Welsh strain in him. It also accounts for his mendacity and dishonesty.
Oh, please, Higgins. I'm West Country myself. How did you know the girl was here if you didn't send for her?
Well, it's like this, Governor. The girl took a boy in the taxi to give him a jaunt, you see, son of her landlady is. Well, he hung about on the chance of her giving him another ride home. Well, she sent him back for her luggage when she heard you was willing for her to stop here. Now, I met the boy at the corner of Longacre and Endell Streets.
Public house, yes.
Oh, well, the poor man's club, Governor. Why shouldn't I?
Do let him tell his story, Higgins.
Well, he told me what was up, and I asked you, what was me feelings and my duty as a father? I says to the boy, you bring me the luggage, I says.
Why didn't you go for it yourself?
Well, landlady wouldn't have trusted me with it, Governor. She's that kind of woman, you know. I had to give the boy a penny afore he trusted me with it, the little swine. You see, I brought it to her to oblige you like, and to make myself agreeable, that's all.
How much luggage?
Musical instrument, Governor, a few pictures, trifle of jewellery, and a bird cage. She didn't want no clothes, and what was I to think from that, Governor? I ask you, as a parent, what was I to think?
So you've come to rescue her from worse than death, eh?
Just so, Governor. That's right.
But why did you bring her luggage if you intended to stay and take her away?
Why have I said a word about taking away? Now, have I now?
You're going to take her away double quick.
Oh, no, Governor. Don't say that. I'm not the man to stand in my girl's light. Here's a career opening for you, as you might say. And
Mrs. Pierce, this is Eliza's father. He has come to take her away. Give her to him.
Oh, but no. This is a misunderstanding, you see. Listen here.
Mrs. Pierce,
Mrs. Higgins?
please speak up.
He can't take her away, Mr. Higgins. How can he? You told me to burn her clothes.
Oh, well, you see, that's right. I can't carry the girl through the streets looking like a blooming monkey, can I? I put it to you.
You have put it to me that you want your daughter. Take your daughter. If she has no clothes, go out and buy her some.
Well, where's the clothes she came in? Did she burn them, or did your missus here?
I'm the housekeeper, if you please. I have sent for some clothes for your girl. When they come, you can take her away. You can wait in the kitchen. This way, please.
Well, now listen here, Governor. You and me is men of the world, ain't we?
Oh, men of the world, are we? Well, you'd better go, Mrs. Pierce.
I think so indeed, sir.
The floor is yours, Mr. Doolittle.
Well, I thank you, Governor. Well, the truth is, I've taken a sort of fancy to you, Governor. And if you want the girl, I'm not so set on having her back home again. But what I might be open to is an arrangement. Regarded in the light of a young woman, she's a fine, handsome girl. As a daughter, she's not worth a keep. So I'll tell you straight. All I ask is me rights as a father. And you're the last man alive to expect me to let her go for nothing, for I can see you're one of the straight sort, Governor. Well, what's a £5 note to you? And what's Eliza to me?
I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins' intentions are entirely honorable.
Of course they are, Governor. If I thought they wasn't, I'd ask 50.
Do you mean to say, you callous rascal, that you would sell your daughter for £50?
Oh, not in a general way, I wouldn't. But to oblige a gentleman like you, I'd do a good deal, I assure you.
Have you no morals, man?
Oh, I can't afford them, Governor. Well, neither could you if you was as poor as me. Not that I mean any harm, you know, but if Liza's going to have a bit out of this, why not me too?
I don't know what to do, Pickering. There can be no question as to this matter of morals. It's a positive crime to give this chap a farthing. And yet, I feel a sort of rough justice in his claim.
Oh, well, you see, that's it, Governor, and that's all I say. A father's art, as it were.
Well, I know the feeling, but really, it hardly seems right.
Oh, don't say that, Governor. Don't look at it that way. What am I, Governors, both? I ask you, what am I? Well, I'm one of the undeserving poor, that's what I am. Well, think what that means to a man. It means he's up again the middle-class morality all the time. And if there's anything going, and I put in for a bit of it, it's always the same story. You're undeserving, so you can't have it. Well, but my needs is as great as the most deserving widow who's ever gotten money out of 6 different charities in 1 week for the death of the same husband. I don't need less than a deserving man. I need more. Well, I don't eat less hardy than him, and I drinks a lot more. But I want a bit of amusement because I'm a thinking man. I want cheerfulness, a song and a band when they feel low. When they charge me just the same for everything as they charge the deserving. Now, what is middle-class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything. Therefore, I ask you, as 2 gentlemen, not to play that game on me. I'm playing straight with you. I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving. And I mean to go on being undeserving. I'm not pretending to be deserving. And I like it. And that's the truth. Now, will you take advantage of a man's nature to do him out of the price of his own daughter, who he's brought up and fed and clothed by the sweat of his brow till she's grown big enough to be interesting to you 2 gentlemen? Is £5 unreasonable? I put it to you, and I leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this man in hand for 3 months, he could choose between a seat in the cabinet and a popular pulpit in Wales.
What do you say to that, Doolittle?
Not me, Governor, thank you kindly. I've heard all the preachers and prime ministers for I'm a thinking man. And again, for politics or religion or social reform, same as all the other amusements. And I'll tell you, it's a dog's life any way you look at it. Undeserving poverty is my line, and taking one station in society with another. It's well, it's the only one that's got any ginger in it, to my taste.
I suppose we must give him a £5.
He'll make a bad use of it, I'm afraid.
Oh, no, not me, Governor. So help me, I won't. Don't you be afraid that I'll save it and spare it and live idle on it. There won't be a penny left by Monday. I'll have to go to work same as if I never had it. It won't pauperize me, you bet. Just one good spree for me and the missus. giving pleasure to ourselves and employment to others and satisfaction to you to think it's not been thrown away. You couldn't spend it better.
This is irresistible. Let's give him 10.
Oh, no, Governor. No, she wouldn't have the heart to spend 10, and perhaps I shouldn't either. But £10 a lot of money, and it makes feel prudent like, and then goodbye to happiness. Give me what I ask you, Governor. Not a penny more, not a penny less.
Why don't you marry that missus of yours? I rather draw the line at encouraging that sort of immorality.
Oh, tell her so, Governor. I'm willing. It's me that suffers by it. I've got no hold on her. I've got to be agreeable to her. I've got to give her presents. I've got to buy her clothes, something simple. Oh, no, I'm a slave to that woman, Governor, just because I'm not a lawful husband, and she knows it too. Get her marrying me. Or take my advice, Governor. Marry Eliza while she's young and don't know no better. If you don't, you'll be sorry for it after. If you do, she'll be sorry for it after. But better you than her, because you're a man and she's only a woman and don't know how to be happy anyhow.
Pickering, if we listen to this man another minute, we shall have no convictions left. £5, I think you said?
Yes, thank you kindly, Governor.
You're sure you won't take 10?
Oh, not now. Another time.
Well, here you are.
Ah. Thank you. Governor, good morning to you.
God,
Beg pardon,
don't you
yes.
know your own daughter?
Oh,
What?
blimey, it's Eliza.
Don't I look silly?
Silly.
Now, Mr. Higgins, please don't say anything to make the girl conceited about herself.
Oh, quite right, Mrs. Pierce. Yes, damn silly.
Please, sir.
I mean extremely silly.
I should look all right with my hat on.
A new fashion, by George, and it ought to look horrible.
Well, I never thought she'd clean up as good looking as that, Governor. She's a credit to me now, ain't she?
I tell you, it's easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water just on tap as much as you'd like. Woolly towels there is, and a towel so hot it burns your fingers. Soft brushes to scrub yourself, and a wooden bowl of soap smelling like primroses. Now I know why ladies is so clean. Washing's a treat for 'em. Wish they saw what it is for the like of me.
I'm glad the bathroom met with your approval.
It didn't. Not all of it. And I don't care who hears me say it. Mrs. Pierce knows.
What was wrong, Mrs. Pierce?
Nothing, sir. It doesn't matter.
I had a good mind to break it. I didn't know which way to look, but I hung a towel over it, I did.
Over what?
Over the looking glass, sir.
Doolittle, you have brought your daughter up much too strictly.
What, me? Oh, I never brought it up at all, except to give her a lick of a strap now and again. Don't put it on me, Governor. She ain't accustomed to it, you see, that's all. But she'll pick up your free and easy ways.
I'm a good girl, I am, and I won't pick up no free and easy ways.
Eliza, if you say again that you're a good girl, your father should take you home.
Oh, not him. You don't know my father. All he come for was to touch you for some money to get drunk on.
What else would I want money for? To put in the plate in church? Oh, now, don't you give him none of your lip. And don't let me hear you giving this gentleman any of it either, or you'll hear from me about it, see?
Have you any further advice to give her before you go, Doolittle? Your blessing, for instance.
No, Governor. I ain't such a mugs to put me children up to all I know myself. Hard enough to hold them up in without that. If you want Eliza's mind improved, Governor, do it yourself with the strap. So long, gentlemen.
Stop. You'll come regularly to see your daughter. It's your duty, you know. My brother is a clergyman, and he could help you in your talks with her.
Certainly, Governor. But not just this week, though, because I've got a job at a distance. But later, you may depend on me. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Don't believe the old liar. He'd assume you set a bulldog on him as a clergyman. You won't see him again in a hurry.
I don't want to, Eliza, do you?
Not me. I don't want to never see him again, I don't. He's a disgrace to me, he is, collecting dust instead of working at his trade.
What is his trade, Eliza?
Talking that money out of other people's pockets into his own. His proper trade's a navvy, and he works at it sometimes too, for exercise, and earns good money at it. Ain't you gonna call me Miss Doolittle anymore?
I beg your pardon, Miss Doolittle. It was a slip of the tongue.
Oh, I didn't mind. Only it sounded so genteel. I should just like to take a taxi to the corner of Tottenham Court Road and get out there and tell it to wait for me just to put the girls in their place a bit. No, I wouldn't speak to them, you know.
Better wait until we get you something really fashionable.
Besides, you shouldn't cut your old friends now that you've risen in the world. That would be snobbery.
You don't call the like of them my friends now, I should hope. They took it out of me more often with their own ridicule when they had the chance. And now I mean to get a bit of my own back. But if I'm to have fashionable clothes, I'll wait. I should like to have some. Mrs. Pierce says you're going to give me some to wear in bed at night, different to wear what I in the daytime. But it do seem like a waste of money when you could get something to show. Besides, I never could fancy changing into cold things on a winter night.
Now, Eliza, the new things have come for you to try on. Oh, don't rush about like that, girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
We are in Mrs. Higgins' upscale and stylish home. It is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's see what Mrs. Higgins' reaction is as Higgins comes rushing in.
Henry, what are you doing here today? It is my at-home day. You promised not to come.
Oh, bother.
Go home at once.
But I know, Mother. I came on purpose.
But you mustn't. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you.
Nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, don't they? Small talk indeed. What about your large talk? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. I've a job for you. A phonetic job.
No use, dear. I'm sorry, but I can't get round your vowels. And though I like to get pretty postcards in your patent shorthand, I always have to read the copies you send me in ordinary writing.
Well, this isn't a phonetic job.
I thought you said it was.
Not your part of it. I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
Oh, what a pity.
Why?
Well, you never fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover that there are some rather nice-looking young women about?
Oh, I can't be bothered with young women. My idea of a lovable woman is someone as like you as possible. I shall never get into the way of seriously liking young women. Some habits lie too deep to be changed. Besides, they're all idiots.
Do you know what you would do if you really loved me, Henry?
Oh, bother. What? Marry, I suppose.
No. Stop fidgeting and take your hands out of your pockets. There's a good boy. Now, tell me about the girl.
She's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't. I asked her. If you'd known her, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed. Why?
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl. I picked her up off the curbstone.
And you invited her to my at-home?
Oh, that'll be all right. I've taught her to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She's to keep to 2 subjects, the weather and everybody's health. Fine day and how do you do, you know, and not to let herself go on things in general. That will be safe.
Safe? To talk about our health, about our insides, perhaps our outsides. How could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, she must talk about something. Oh, she'll be all right. Don't you fuss. Pickering is in it with me. I've sort of a bet that I'll pass her off as a duchess in 6 months. I started on it some months ago, and she's getting on like a house on fire. I shall win my bet. She has a quick ear, and she's even easier to teach than my middle-class pupils, because she's had to learn a completely new language. She talks English almost as you talk French.
Well, that's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it is, and it isn't.
What does that mean?
Well, you see, I've got the pronunciation all right, but you have to consider not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces, and that's where you come in.
Mrs. and Miss Eynsford Hill.
Oh, Lord.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My son, Henry.
Your celebrated son. I have so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
Oh, how do you do?
I've seen you before somewhere. I haven't the ghost of a notion where, but I've heard your voice. Oh, it doesn't matter. You'd better sit down.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
Oh, I don't.
Not at all.
Oh, have I been rude? I didn't mean to be.
Colonel Pickering.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
So glad you've come. Do you know Mrs. Eynsford Hill? Miss Eynsford Hill?
Has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted, damn it.
Henry! Henry, really?
Oh, are we in the way?
Oh, no, no. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George, we want 2 or 3 people. You'll do as well as anybody else.
Mr. Eynsford Hill.
God in heaven, more of them.
How to do?
Very good of you to come. Colonel Pickering.
How to do?
I don't think you know my son, Professor Higgins.
How to do?
I've taken my oath I've met you somewhere before. Where was it?
I don't think so.
It doesn't matter anyway. Sit down. Well, here we are anyhow. And now, what the devil are we going to talk about until Eliza comes?
Henry, you are the life and soul of the Royal Society's soirees, but you're really rather trying on more commonplace occasions.
Am I? I'm so very, very sorry. I suppose I am, you know.
I sympathize. I haven't any small talk. If only people would be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid.
Oh, but why?
Well, what they think they ought to think is bad enough. Lord knows, but what they really think would break up the whole show. Do you suppose it would be really agreeable if I were to come out now with what I really think?
Oh, is it very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said it was cynical? I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Oh, I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins.
You see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured, to know all about poetry and philosophy and art and science and so on. But how many of us know even the meanings of these names? What do you know of poetry? What do you know of science? What does he know of art or science or anything else? What the devil do you imagine I know of philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry?
Miss Doolittle.
Oh, here she is, Mother.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come.
Quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
I feel sure we have met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I've certainly had the pleasure.
My son Freddie.
How do you do?
By George, yes, it all comes back to me. Covent Garden. What a damn thing.
Henry, please. Don't sit on my writing table, you'll break it.
Sorry.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
Well, I'm sure I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It runs right through our family every spring.
My aunt died of influenza, so they say.
Oh.
But it's my belief they done the old woman in.
Done her in?
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come through diphtheria right enough the year before. I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue with it she was. They all thought she was dead, but my father, he kept ladling gin down her throat till she came to so sudden that she bit the bowl off the spoon.
Oh, dear me.
What call would a woman with the strength in her have to die of influenza? What become of her new straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it. And what I say is, them as pinched it done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
Oh, well, that's the new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them.
Oh. You surely don't mean that your aunt was killed?
Do I not? Them she lived with would have killed her for a hat pin, let alone a hat.
But it can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. It might have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he'd poured so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Oh, do you mean that he drank?
Drink? My word! Something chronic.
Oh, how dreadful for you.
Not a bit. It never did no harm, what I could see, but then he did not keep it up regular, on the burst, as you might say, from time to time, and always agreeable when he had a drop in. When he was out of work, my mother used to give him 4 pence and tell him to go out and not come back until he'd drunk himself cheerful and loving like. There's lots of women out there that have to make their husbands drunk to make them fit to live with. You see, it's like this. If a man has a bit of a conscience, it always takes him when he's sober, and then it makes him low-spirited. A drop of booze just takes that off and makes him happy. What are you sniggering at?
The new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Not at all, Miss Doolittle.
That's a mercy anyhow. What I always say is... Well, I must go. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye, Miss Doolittle.
Goodbye, all.
Are you walking to the park, Miss Doolittle? If so,
Walk? Not bloody likely. I shall be taking a taxi.
Well, I really can't get used to the new ways.
Oh, it's all right, Mama. Quite right. People would think we never go anywhere or see anybody if you were so old-fashioned.
I dare say I am very old-fashioned, but I do hope you won't begin using that expression, Clara. I have got accustomed to you talking about men as rotters and calling everything filthy and beastly, but I do think it horrible and unladylike. But this last is really too much. Don't you think so, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't ask me. I've been away in India for several years, and manners have changed so much that I sometimes don't know whether I'm at a respectable dinner table or in a ship's forecastle.
It's all a matter of habit. There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it, and it's so quaint. It gives such a small emphasis to things that are not in themselves very witty. And, well, I find the new talk delightful and quite innocent.
Well, after that, I think it's time to go.
Oh, yes, we have 3 more at-homes to go to. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins, and goodbye, Colonel Pickering, and goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Goodbye. Be sure and try out that small talk at the 3 at-homes. Don't be nervous about it. Pitch it in strong.
Oh, I will. Goodbye. Such nonsense, all this early Victorian prudery.
Such damn nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Clara!
Well, I ask you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Yes, I should. Most awfully.
Well, you know my days.
Yes. Thanks awfully. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.
Goodbye, goodbye.
It's no use. I shall never be able to bring myself to use that word.
Don't. It's not compulsory, you know. You'll get on quite well without it.
Only Clara is so down on me if I'm not positively reeking with the latest slang. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You mustn't mind, Clara. We're so poor and she gets so few parties, poor child. She doesn't quite know. But the boy is nice, don't you think?
Oh, quite nice. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Thank you, dear. Goodbye.
Well, is Eliza presentable?
You silly boy, of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of her dressmakers. But if you suppose for a moment that she doesn't give herself away with every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked about her.
But don't you think something might be done? I mean, something to eliminate the sanguinary element from her conversation.
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
Do you mean that my language is improper?
No, dearest, it would be quite proper, say, on a canal barge, but it would not be proper for her at a garden party.
Well, I must say...
Come, Higgins, you must learn to know yourself. I haven't heard such language as yours since we used to review the volunteers in Hyde Park 20 years ago.
Oh, well, if you say so, I suppose I don't always talk like a bishop.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what is the exact state of things in Wimpole Street?
Well, I have come to live there with Henry, and we work together at my Indian dialects, and we find it more convenient.
Quite so, I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement. But where does this girl live?
Well, with us, of course. Where else would she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I know what you mean, Mrs. Higgins.
Dash me if I do. I've had to work at the girl every day for months to get her to the present pitch. Besides, she's useful. She knows where my things are and remembers my appointments and so forth.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pierce? Oh, she's jolly glad to get so much taken off her hands. For before Eliza, she had to find my things and remind me of my appointments, but she's got some silly bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, sir," doesn't she, Pick?
Yes, that's the formula. You don't think, sir. That's the end of every conversation about Eliza.
As if I ever stopped thinking about the girl and her confounded vowels and consonants. I'm worn out thinking about her, watching her lips and her teeth and her tongue, not to mention her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You certainly are a pretty pair of babies playing with your live doll.
Playing? The hottest job I ever did. Make no mistake about that, Mother. But you have no idea how frighteningly interesting it is to take a human being and change her into quite a different human being by creating a new speech for her. It's filling up the deepest gulf that separates class from class and soul from soul.
Yes, it's enormously interesting, I assure you, Mrs. Higgins. We take Eliza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there's some new change. We keep records of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and photographs.
Yes, by George, it's the most absorbing experiment I ever tackled. She regularly fills up our lives, doesn't she, Pick?
We're always talking Eliza,
Teaching Eliza,
dressing Eliza.
What?
inventing new Elizas.
I assure you, my dear Mrs. Higgins, that girl is a
here, just like a
she can
parrot.
play the
I've
piano
tried
quite
her at every possible sort
we
of
have taken her to classical concert.
Stop, little dialects.
Stop!
Dialects, Hottentot, click.
Stop!
I beg your pardon.
Sorry, when Pickering starts shouting, no one can get in a word edgewise.
Be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimple Street, something walked in with her?
Her father did, but Henry soon got rid of him.
It would have been more to the point if her mother had, but as her mother didn't, something else did.
But what? I don't see the problem. Oh, yes, I do. The problem of how to pass her off as a lady.
Oh, I've solved that problem. I've half solved it already.
No, you two infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
I don't see anything in that. She can go her own way with all the advantages I've given her.
The advantages of that poor woman who was here just now. The manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income. Is that what you mean?
Oh, that will be all right, Mrs. Higgins.
We'll find her some light employment.
She's happy enough. Don't worry about her. Goodbye.
Anyhow, there's no good bothering now. The thing's done. Goodbye, Mother.
There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
Let's take her to Shakespeare's expedition at Earl's Court.
Yes, let's. Her remarks will be delicious.
Oh, she'll mimic all the people for us when we get home.
Ripping.
Oh, men. Men! Ah, men!
We return to Higgins's laboratory at midnight. Let's watch what Higgins and Pickering discuss after returning from a night on the town.
I say, Pick, lock up, will you? I shan't be going out again.
Right. Can Mrs. Pierce go to bed? We don't want anything more, do we?
Lord, no.
I say, Mrs. Pierce will have brow if we leave these things lying about in the drawing room.
Oh, chuck them over their banisters into the hole. She'll find them there in the morning and put them all straight away. She'll think we were drunk.
Well, we are, slightly. Are there any letters?
Oh, I didn't look. I wonder where the devil my slippers are.
Ah, yeah. Only circulars and coroneted billet doux for you.
Oh, moneylender. Oh, Lord, what an evening! What a crew! What silly tomfoolery! Oh, they're there, are they?
Well, I feel a bit tired. It's been a long day. The garden party, a dinner party, and the opera. Rather too much of a good thing, but you've won your bet, Higgins. Eliza did the trick and something to spare, eh?
Thank God it's over.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I was. Eliza didn't seem a bit nervous.
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it's the strain of putting the job through all these months that has told on me. It was interesting enough at first, while we were at the phonetics, but after that I was deadly sick of it. If I hadn't backed myself into doing it, I should have chucked the whole thing 2 months ago. Oh, it was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore.
Oh, come, the garden party was frightfully exciting. My heart began beating like anything.
Oh, yes, for the first few minutes. But when I saw we were going to win hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage, hanging around doing nothing. The dinner was worse, sitting gorging there for over an hour with nobody but a damn fool of a fashionable woman to talk to. I tell you, Pickering, never for me again. No more artificial duchesses. The whole thing has been simple purgatory.
You've never been broken in properly to the social routine. I rather enjoyed dipping into it occasionally myself. It makes me feel young again. Anyway, it was a great success, an immense success. I was quite frightened once or twice because Eliza was doing it so well. You see, lots of real people can't do it at all. They're such fools, they think that style comes by nature to people in their position, and so they never learn. There's always something professional about doing a thing superlatively well.
Yes, that's what drives me mad. The silly people don't know their own silly business. However, it's over and done with, and now I can go to bed at last without dreading tomorrow.
I think I shall turn in too. Still, it's been a great occasion, a triumph for you. Good night.
Good night. Oh, put out the light, Eliza, and tell Mrs. Pierce not to make coffee in the morning. I'll have tea. Oh, where the devil did I do with my slippers?
There are your slippers. And there, take your slippers and may you never have a day's luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Get up! Anything wrong?
Nothing wrong with you. I've won your bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet. You presumptuous insect. I won it. What did you throw my slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you pulled me out of, in the gutter? You thank God it's all over, and that now you can throw me back in there again, do you?
Creature is nervous after all. Oh, would you? Claws in, you cat. How dare you show your temper at me? Sit down and be quiet.
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How the devil do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what becomes of you?
You don't care. I know you don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I am nothing to you, not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers?
Those slippers. I didn't think it mattered anymore.
Why have you begun going on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here?
No.
Has anyone behaved badly to you, Colonel Pickering?
No.
Mrs. Pierce?
No.
Any of the servants?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have treated you badly?
No.
I am glad to hear it. Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day. Will you have a glass of champagne?
No. Thank you.
This has been coming on for some days. I suppose it was natural for you to be anxious about the garden party, but that's all over now. There's nothing more to worry about.
Nothing more for you to worry about. God, I wish I was dead.
Why? In heaven's name, why? Listen to me, Eliza. All this irritation is purely subjective.
I don't understand. I'm too ignorant.
It's only imagination. Low spirits and nothing else. Nobody's hurting you. Nothing's wrong. You go to bed like a good girl and sleep it off. Have a cry. Say your prayers. That will make you comfortable.
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you think, God, it's all over? Now you are free and can do what you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What's to become of me?
Well, that's what's worrying you, is it? I shouldn't bother about that if I were you. I should imagine you won't have much difficulty in settling yourself somewhere or other, though I hadn't quite realized you were going away. You might marry, you know. You see, Eliza, all men are not confirmed old bachelors like me and the Colonel. Most men are the marrying sort, poor devils, and you're not bad-looking. It's quite a pleasure to look at you sometimes. Not now, of course, because you're crying and you're looking as ugly as the very devil, but when you're all right, you're quite yourself. You're what I would call attractive. That is, to people of the marrying line. You go to bed, and you have a nice rest, and then you get up and you look at yourself in the glass, and you won't feel so cheap. Oh, I dare say my mother could find some chap or other you would do very well with.
We were above that, at Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I did not sell myself. Now you've made a lady of me, and I'm not fit to sell anything else. I wish you had left me where you found me.
Hush, Eliza, don't you insult human relations by dragging all this cant about buying and selling into it. You needn't marry the fellow if you don't like him.
What else am I supposed to do?
Oh, lots of things. What about your idea of a florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's lots of money. You'll have to pay for all those togs you've been wearing today, and with the hire of the jewelry, will make a big hole in £2,000, or 200 even. Why, 6 months ago, you would have thought it the millennium to have a flower shop of your own. Come, you'll be all right. Oh, I really must clear to bed. I'm devilishly sleepy. By the way, I came down for something. What was it?
Your slippers.
Oh, yes, of course. You shied them at me.
Before you go, sir.
Hey?
Do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering?
Well, what the devil use would they be to Pickering?
He might want them for the next girl you pick up to experiment on.
Is that the way you feel towards us?
I don't want to hear anything more about that. All I want to know is whether anything belongs to me. My own clothes were burnt.
What does it matter? Why need start bothering about that in the middle of the night?
I want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? You shouldn't have said that, Eliza. That shows a want of feeling.
I'm sorry. I'm only an ignorant common girl, and in my station I have to be careful. There can't be any feelings between the like of you and the like of me. Please, will you tell me what belongs to me and what doesn't?
You may take the whole damned house full if you like. Except the jewels, they're hired. Will that satisfy you?
Stop, please. Will you take these to your room and keep them safe? I don't want to run the risk of their being missing.
Hand them over. If these didn't belong to me instead of the jeweler, I'd ram them down your ungrateful throat.
This ring isn't the jeweler's. It's the one you brought me in Brighton. I don't want it now. Don't you hit me.
Hit you? You infamous creature, how dare you accuse me of such a thing? It is you who have hit me. You have wounded me to the heart.
I'm glad. I've got a little of my own back anyhow.
You have caused me to lose my temper. A thing that has hardly ever happened to me before. I prefer to say nothing else tonight. I'm going to bed.
You better leave a note for Mrs. Pierce about the coffee, for she won't be told by me.
Damn Mrs. Pierce, damn the coffee, and damn you! Damn my own folly in having lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snipe!
For our final act, we return to Mrs. Higgins's home. The parlor maid announces Higgins and Pickering's unexpected arrival. Let's watch Mrs. Higgins' reaction as she learns her son is in a frantic state.
Mr. Henry, ma'am, is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Well, show them up.
They're using the telephone, ma'am. Telephoning to the police, I think.
What?
Mr. Henry's in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me Mr. Henry was not in a state, it would have been more surprising. Tell them to come up when they're finished with the police. I suppose he's lost something.
Yes, ma'am.
Go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. Ask her not to come down until I send for her.
Yes, ma'am.
Look here, Mother, here's the confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning. What is it?
Eliza's bolted.
You must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense. She was left last night, as usual, to turn out the lights and all that, and instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and went right off. Her bed wasn't slept in. She came in the cab for her things before 7 this morning. That fool Mrs. Pierce let her have them without telling me a word. What am I to do?
Do without, I'm afraid, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
But I can't find anything. I don't know when my appointments are.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Has Henry told you?
What does that ass of an inspector say? Have you offered a reward?
You don't mean to say you've set the police after Eliza?
Of course. What are the police for? What else could we do?
Oh. The inspector made a lot of difficulties. I really think he suspected us of some improper purpose.
Well, of course he did. What right have you to go to the police and give the girl's name as if she were a thief or a lost umbrella or something? Really?
But we want to find her.
We can't let her go like this, you know, Mrs. Higgins. What were we to do?
You have no more sense, the two of you, than these children. Why,
Mr. Henry,
find her, but that doesn't...
A gentleman wants to see you very particular. He's been sent on from Wimpole Street.
Oh, bother! I can't see anyone now. Who is it?
A Mr. Doolittle, sir.
Doolittle? Do you mean the dustman?
Dustman? Oh, no, sir. A gentleman.
By George, Pick. It's some relative of hers that she's gone to. Someone we knew nothing about. Oh, send him up, quick.
Yes, sir.
Genteel relatives, now we shall hear something.
Do you know any of her people?
Only her father, the fellow we told you about.
Mr. Doolittle.
See here. You've done this to me. Do you see this?
Done what, man?
This, I tell you. Look at it. Look at this coat.
Has Eliza been buying you clothes?
Oh, Eliza, not she, not half. Why would she buy me clothes?
Good morning, Mr. Doolittle. Won't you sit down?
Oh, asking your pardon, ma'am. Thank you. I'm that full of what's happened to me, and I can't think anything else.
What the dickens has happened to you?
No, I shouldn't mind if it only happened to me, but anything might happen to anybody, and nobody to blame but Providence, as you might say. But this is something you've done to me. Yes, you, Henry Higgins.
Have you found Eliza? That's the point.
Oh, you lost her?
Yes!
Well, you have all the luck you have. Oh, I ain't found her. But she'll find me quick enough now that's what you've done to me.
But what has my son done to you, Mr. Doolittle?
Done to me? Oh, he's ruined me, destroyed me happiness, torn me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality.
You're raving, you're drunk, you're mad. I gave you £5. After that, I've had 2 conversations with you at £0.50 an hour. I've never seen you since.
Oh, drunk? Am I? Mad? Am I? Well, tell me this. Did you or did you not write a letter to an old writer in America, say that was giving $5 million to found moral reform societies all over the world? And wanted you to invent a universal language for him.
What? Ezra D. Wannafeller? But he's dead.
Yes, he's dead and I'm done for. Now, did you or did you not write a letter to him to say that the most original moralist at present in England, to the best of your knowledge, was Alfred Doolittle, a common dustman?
Oh, after your last visit, I remember making some silly joke of the kind.
Ah, well, you may well call it a silly joke. Well, it's put the lid on me right enough. Just give him the chance. He wanted to show that Americans is not like us, that they recognise and respect merit in every class of life, however humble. Them words is in his blooming will, in which Henry Higgins, thanks to your silly joking, he leaves me a share in his pre-digested cheese trust worth $3,000 a year, on a condition that I lecture for his Wannafeller Moral Reform World League as often as they ask me, up to 6 times a year.
The devil he does! What a lark!
A safe thing for you, Doolittle. They won't ask you twice.
Don't think the lecturing on mine. I'll lecture him till I'm blue in the face, I will, and I'm not turning a hair. Why, it's making a gentleman of me that I object to. Well, who asked him to make a gentleman of me? I was happy. I was free. I touched pretty nigh everybody for money when I wanted it. Same as I touched you, Henry Higgins. Now, I'm worried, tied neck and heels, and everybody touches me for money. That's a fine thing for you, says my solicitor. Is it, says I. You mean it's a good thing for you, I says. When I was a poor man and had a solicitor once, when they found a pram in my dust cart, he got me off and got shut of me and got me shut of him as quick as he could. Same with the doctors who used to shove me out the hospital before I had to stand on my legs and nothing to pay. Now, they find out that I'm not the healthy man and can't live unless they looks at me twice a day. In the house, I'm not let to do a hand's turn for myself. Somebody else must do it for me and touch me for it. A year ago, I hadn't a relative in the world except 2 or 3 that wouldn't speak to me. Now, I got 50. And not decent week's wages among the lot of them. I have to live for others and not for myself. And that's middle-class morality. You talk of losing Eliza. But don't you be anxious. I bet she's on my doorstep by this. She that could support herself easy by selling flowers if I wasn't respectable. And the next one to touch me will be you, Henry Higgins. I have to learn to speak middle-class language from you instead of speaking proper English. That's where you'll come in, and I dare say that's what you've done it for.
But my dear Mr. Doolittle, you need not suffer all this if you're really in earnest. Nobody can force you to accept this bequest. You can repudiate it. Isn't that so, Colonel Pickering?
I believe so.
Well, that's the tragedy of it, ma'am. What's easy to say, chuck it. Or I'm the nerve. Which one of us has? We're all intimidated. Intimidated, ma'am. That's what we are. And what is there for me if I chuck it? But for the workhouse in me old age. I have to dye my hair already to keep my job as a dustman. If I wasn't one of the deserving, if I was one of the deserving poor and had to put by a bit, but I could chuck it. But then, why should I? Of course, the deserving poor might as well be millionaires for all the happiness they ever has. They don't know what happiness is. But I, as one of the undeserving poor, have nothing between me and the pauper's uniform but this here blasted 3,000 a year that shoves me into the middle class. Well, excuse the expression, ma'am. You'd use it yourself if you had any provocation. They got you every way you turn. It's a choice between the skilly of the workhouse and the char-ribbedness of the middle class. And I am at the nerve of the workhouse. Intimidated, that's what I am. Broke, brought up. Oh, happier men than me will call for me dust and touch me for the tip, and I'll look on helpless and envy him. And that's what your son has brought me to.
Well, I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Mr. Doolittle, for this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm expected to provide for everyone now, after 3,000 a year.
Nonsense! He can't provide for her. He shan't provide for her. She doesn't belong to him. I paid £5 for her, Doolittle. Either you're an honest man or a rogue.
Well, a little bit of both, Henry. Like the rest of us. A little bit of both.
Well, you took that girl, you took the money for the girl, and you have no right to take her as well.
Henry, don't be absurd. If you really want to know where Eliza is, she's upstairs.
Upstairs? Then I shall jolly well fetch her downstairs.
Be quiet, Henry. Sit down.
But
Sit down, dear, and listen to me.
Oh, very, very well, very well, very well. But I should think you might have told me this half-hour ago.
Eliza came to me this morning. She passed the night partly walking about in a rage, partly trying to throw herself into the river and being afraid to, and partly in the Carlton Hotel. She told me of the brutal way you two treated her.
What?
My dear Mrs. Higgins, she's been telling you stories. We didn't treat her brutally. We hardly said a word to her, and we parted on particularly good terms. Higgins, did you bully her after I left?
Just the other way about. She threw my slippers in my face. She behaved in a most outrageous way. I never gave her the slightest provocation. The slippers came bang into my face the moment I entered the room, before I uttered a word. And I used perfectly, and she used perfectly awful language.
But why? What did we do to her?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think. Isn't she, Mr. Doolittle?
Oh, very tender-hearted, ma'am. Takes after me.
Just so. She'd become attached to you both. She worked very hard for you, Henry. I don't think you quite realize what anything in the nature of brain work means to a girl like that. Well, it seems that when the great day of trial came and she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake, you two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together of how glad you were that it was over and how you'd been bored with the whole thing. And then you were surprised because she threw your slippers at you. I should have thrown the fire irons at you.
We said nothing except that we were tired and wanted to go to bed, did we, Pick?
That was all.
Quite sure.
Well, absolutely. Really, that was all.
You didn't thank her, or pet her, or admire her, or tell her how splendid she'd been.
But she knew all that. We didn't make speeches for her. That's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate. Is she very angry?
Well, I'm afraid she won't go back to Wimpole Street, especially now that Mr. Doolittle is able to keep up the position you've thrust on her. But she says she's quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and let bygones be bygones.
Is she, by George?
How? Promise to behave yourself, Henry. I'll ask her to come down. If not, Go home, for you've taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, all right. Very well. Pick, you behave yourself. Let us put on our Sunday best manners for this creature that we picked out of the mud.
Oh, no, Henry Higgins. Have some consideration for my feelings as a middle-class man.
Remember your promise, Henry. Mr. Doolittle, will you be so good as to step out on the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she's made it up with these gentlemen. Would you mind?
Not at all. As you wish, me lady. Anything to help Henry keep her off me hands.
Ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
Oh, he's doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
Henry, dearest, you don't look at all nice in that attitude.
I was not trying to look nice, Mother.
It doesn't matter, dear. I only wanted to make you speak.
Why?
Because you can't speak and whistle at the same time.
Where the devil is that girl? Are we to wait here all day?
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well?
Am I?
But of course you are. You are never ill. So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare try this game on me. I taught it to you, and it doesn't take me in. Get up and come home, and don't be a fool.
Very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
You let her alone, Mother. She can speak for herself. You will jolly soon see whether she had an idea that I did not put into her head or a word that I haven't put in her mouth. I tell you, I created this thing out of the squashed cabbage leaves of Covent Garden, and now she pretends to play the fine lady with me?
Yes, dear, but you will sit down, won't you?
Will you drop me altogether now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't. You mustn't think of it as an experiment. It shocks me somehow.
Oh, I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No!
But I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
It's very kind of you to say so, Miss Doolittle.
It's not because you paid for my dresses. I know you are generous to everybody with money, but it was from you that I learned really nice manners, and that is what makes one a lady, isn't it? You see, it was very difficult for me with the example of Professor Higgins always before me. I was brought up to be just like him, unable to control myself and using bad language on the slightest provocation, and I should never have known that ladies and gentlemen didn't behave like that if you hadn't been there.
Well.
Oh, that's only his way, you know. He doesn't mean it.
No, I didn't mean it either when I was a flower girl. It was only my way. But you see, I did it, and that's what makes the difference after all.
Well, no doubt. Still, he taught you to speak, and I couldn't have done that, you know.
Of course, that is his profession.
Damnation!
It was just like learning to dance in the fashionable way. There was nothing more than that in it. But do you know what began my real education?
What?
You calling me Miss Doolittle that day when I first came to Wimpole Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there were 100 little things that you never noticed because they came naturally to you. Things about standing up and taking off your hat and opening doors.
Oh, that was nothing.
You showed, yes, these things showed that you thought and felt about me as if I was something better than a scullery maid. Though, of course, I know you would have been just the same to a scullery maid if she had been let in the drawing room. You never took off your boots in the dining room when I was there.
You mustn't mind that. Higgins takes off his boots all over the place.
I know. I am not blaming him. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me that you didn't do it. You see, really and truly, apart from the things anyone can pick up, the dressing, the proper way of speaking, and so on, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she is treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins because he always treats me as a flower girl and always will. But I know I can be a lady to you because you always treat me as a lady and always will.
Please don't grind your teeth, Henry.
Well, this is really very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Thank you, Eliza. Of course.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
I'll see you damned fast.
Henry.
Why don't you slang back at him? Don't stand it. It would do him a lot of good.
I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can't go back to it. Last night, when I was wandering about, a girl spoke to me, and I tried to go back into the old way with her, but it was no use. You told me, you know, that when a child is brought to a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets its own. Well, I am a child in your country. I have forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours. That's the real break-off with the corner of Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it.
Oh, but you're coming back to Wimpole Street, aren't you? You'll forgive Higgins.
Forgive? Will she, by George? Let her go. Let her find out how she can get on without us. She will relapse into the gutter in 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
He's incorrigible, Eliza. You won't relapse, will you?
No, not now. Never again. I have learnt my lesson. I don't believe I could utter one of the old sounds if I tried. Oh, wow!
Just so! Ah! Oh! Oh! Victory! Victory!
Now, can you blame the girl? Don't look at me like that, Eliza. It ain't my fault I'm coming to money.
You must have touched a millionaire this time, Dad.
Yeah, I have, but I'm dressed something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepmother is going to marry me.
You're going to let yourself down to marry that low, common woman.
He ought to, Eliza. Why, has she changed her mind?
We're intimidated, Governor. Intimidated. Middle-class morality claims its victim. Would you put on your hat, Eliza, and come see me turned off?
If Colonel says I must, I'll demean myself and get insulted for my pains, like enough.
Oh, no, don't be afraid. Well, she never comes to words with anyone now, poor woman. Respectability has broke all the spirit out of her.
Be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Oh, well, just to show there's no ill feeling, I'll be back in a moment.
I do feel uncommon nervous about the ceremony, Colonel. Oh, I wish you'd come and see me through it.
But you've been through it before, man. You were married to Eliza's mother.
Well, who told you that, Colonel?
Well, nobody told me, but I concluded naturally.
No. That ain't the natural way, Colonel. It's only the middle-class way. My way was always the undeserving way, but don't say nothing to Eliza. She don't know. I'd always had a delicacy about telling her.
Quite right. We'll leave it so if you don't mind.
When you come to the Colonel Church, Colonel, and put me through it straight, eh?
With pleasure. As far as a bachelor can.
May I come, Mr. Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
Oh, I should indeed be honoured by your condescension, ma'am. And me poor old woman would take it as a tremendous compliment. She's been very low, thinking of the happy days that are no more.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be more than 15 minutes. I'm going to the church to see your father married, Eliza. You'd better come in the brougham with me. Colonel Pickering can go on with the bridegroom.
Bridegroom, what a word. What makes a man realize his position somehow.
Before I go, Eliza, do forgive him and come back to us.
I don't think Papa would allow me. Would you, Dad?
They played you off very cunning, Eliza, them two sportsmen. If it had only been one of them, you could have nailed him. But you see, there was two. One of them chaperoned the other, as you might say. It was artful of you, Colonel, but I bear no malice. I should have done the same myself. I've been the victim of one woman after another all my life, and I don't grudge you two getting better of Eliza. I shan't interfere. It's time for us to go, Colonel. So long, Henry. See you in St. George's, Eliza.
Do stay with us, Eliza.
Well, Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? Or are you going to be reasonable? Or do you want any more?
You want me back to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed. Then what are we talking about?
About you, not about me. If you come back, I shall treat you just as I always have treated you. I can't change my nature, and I don't intend to change my manners. My manners are exactly the same as Colonel Pickering's.
That's not true. He treats a flower girl as if she was a duchess.
And I treat a duchess as if she were a flower girl.
I see. The same to everybody.
Just so.
Like father.
Without accepting the comparison at all points, Eliza, it's quite true that your father is not a snob, and that he will be quite at home in any station of life to which his eccentric destiny may call him. The great secret, Eliza, is not having bad manners or good manners or any particular sort of manners, but having the same manner for all human souls. In short, behaving as if you were in heaven, where there are no third-class carriages and one soul is as good as another.
Amen. You are a born preacher.
The question is not whether I treated you rudely, but whether you have ever heard me treat anyone else better.
I don't care how you treat me. I don't mind your swearing at me. I don't mind a black eye. I've had one before, but I won't be passed over.
Then get out of my way, for I won't stop for you. You talk about me as if I were a motor bus.
So you are a motor bus, all bounce and go and no consideration for anyone. But I can do without you. Don't think I can't.
I know you can. I told you you could.
I know you did, you brute. You wanted to get rid of me.
Liar!
Thank you.
You never asked yourself, I suppose, whether I could do without you.
Don't you try to get round me. You'll have to do without me.
I can do without anybody. I have my own soul, my own spark of divine fire, but I shall miss you, Eliza. I've learnt something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. And I've grown accustomed to your voice and appearance. I like them, rather.
Well, you have both of them on your gramophone and in your book of photographs. When you feel lonely without me, you can turn the machine on. It's got no feelings to hurt.
I can't turn on your soul. Leave me those feelings and you can take the voice and the face. They are not you.
No, you are a devil. You can twist the heart in a girl as easy as some could twist her arms to hurt her. Mrs. Pierce warned me. Time and again she has wanted me to leave you, and you always got round her at the last minute, and you don't care a bit for her. And you don't care a bit for me.
I care for life, for humanity, and you are a part of it that has come my way and been built into my house. What more can you or anyone ask?
I won't care for anybody that doesn't care for me.
Commercial principles, Eliza, like Cerulean violets, isn't it?
Don't sneer at me. It is mean to sneer at me.
I have never sneered in my life. Sneering doesn't become either the human face or the human soul. I am expressing my righteous contempt for commercialism. I don't and won't trade in affection. You call me a brute because you couldn't buy a claim on me by fetching my slippers and finding my spectacles. You were a fool. I think a woman fetching a man's slippers is a disgusting sight. Did I ever fetch your slippers? I think a great deal more of you for throwing them in my face. Now you slaving for me and then saying you want to be cared for. Who cares for a slave? If you come back for the sake of good fellowship, for that's what you'll get. You'll get nothing else. You've had 1,000 times as much out of me as I have out of you. And if you dare to set up your little dog's tricks of fetching and carrying slippers against my creation of Duchess Eliza, I'll slam the door in your silly face.
What did you do it for if you don't care for me?
Why, it was my job.
You never thought of the trouble it would make for me.
Would the world ever have been made if its maker had been afraid of making trouble? Making life means making trouble. There's only one way to escape trouble, and that's killing things. Cowards, you notice, are always shrieking to have troublesome people killed.
I'm no preacher. I don't notice things like that. I notice that you don't notice me.
Eliza, you're an idiot. I waste the treasures of my Miltonic mind by spreading them before you once for all. Understand that I go my way and do my work without caring tuppence what happens to either of us. I'm not intimidated like your father and your stepmother. So you come back or go to the devil, which you please.
What am I to come back for?
For the fun of it. That's why I took you on.
And you may throw me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
Yes! And you may walk out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
She'll live with my stepmother.
Yes, or sell flowers.
Oh, if only I could go back to my flower basket. I should be independent of both you and father and all the world. Why did you take my independence away from me? Why did I give it up? I'm a slave now for all my fine clothes.
Not a bit. I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you if you like. Or would you rather marry Colonel Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you asked, and you're nearer my age than what he is.
Then he is not than what he is.
I'll talk as I like. You're not my teacher now.
I don't suppose Pickering would, actually. He's as confirmed an old bachelor as I am.
That's not what I want, and don't you think it. I've always had chaps enough wanting me that way. Freddie Hill writes to me twice and 3 times a day, sheets and sheets.
Damn his impudence!
He has a right to, if he likes, poor lad. And he does love me.
You have no right to encourage him.
Every girl has a right to be loved.
What? By fools like that?
Freddie's not a fool. And if he's weak and poor and wants me, maybe he'd make me happier than my betters that bully me and don't want me.
Can he make anything of you? That's the point.
Perhaps I could make something of him. But I never thought of us making anything of one another, and you never think of anything else. I only want to be natural.
In short, you want me to be as infatuated with you as Freddie, is that it?
No, I don't. That's not the sort of feeling I want from you. And don't be too sure of yourself or of me. I could have been a bad girl if I liked. I've seen more of some things than you, for all your learning. Girls like me can drag gentlemen down to make them love them easy enough, and they wish each other dead the next minute.
Of course they do. What in thunder are we quarreling about?
I want a little kindness. I know I am a common, ignorant girl, and you a book-learned gentleman, but I am not dirt under your feet. What I've done was not for the dresses and the taxis. I did it because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for you, not to want you to make love for me, and not fighting the difference between us, but more friendly like.
Well, of course. That's just how I feel and how Pickering feels. Eliza, you're a fool.
That's not the proper answer to give to me.
It's all you'll get until you stop being a common idiot. If you're going to be a lady, you're going to have to give up feeling neglected if a man you know doesn't spend half the time sniveling over you and the other half giving you black eyes. If you can't stand the coldness of my sort of life and the strain of it, go back to the gutter. Work till you are more a brute than a human being, and then cuddle and squabble and drink until you fall asleep. Oh, it's a fine life, the life of the gutter. It's real, it's warm, it's violent. You can feel it through your thickest skin. You can taste it and smell it without the training of any work. Not like science or literature or classical music or philosophy or art. You find me cold, unfeeling, selfish, don't you? Very well, be off with you to the sort of people you like. Marry some sentimental hog or other for lots of money, with a thick pair of lips to kiss you and a thick pair of boots to kick you with. If you can't appreciate what you've got, you'd better get what you can appreciate.
Oh, you are a cruel tyrant. I can't talk to you. You turn everything against me. I'm always in the wrong. But you know very well all the time that you're nothing but a bully. You know I can't go back to the gutter, as you call it, and that I have no real friends in the world but you and the Colonel. You know well I couldn't bear to live with a low common man after you two, and it's wicked and cruel of you to insult me by pretending I could. You think I must go back to Wimple Street because I have nowhere else to go but father's. But don't you be too sure that you have me under your feet to be trampled on and talked down. I'll marry Freddie. I will, as soon as he's able to support me.
Rubbish! You shall marry an ambassador. You shall marry the Governor-General of India or the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland or somebody who wants a deputy queen. I'm not going to have my masterpiece thrown away on Freddie.
You think I like you to say that, but I haven't forgotten what you said a minute ago, and I won't be coaxed round as if I was a baby or a puppy. If I can't have kindness, I'll have independence.
Independence? That's middle-class blasphemy. We are all dependent on one another, every soul of us on earth.
I'll let you see whether I'm dependent on you. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go and be a teacher.
What will you teach in heaven's name?
What you taught me. I'll teach phonetics. I'll offer myself as an assistant to Professor Nepean.
What? That impostor? That humbug? That toady ignoramus? Teach him my methods, my discoveries. You take one step in his direction and I'll wring your neck, do you hear?
Ring away. What do I care? I knew you'd strike me someday. Now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was not to think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me, You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. That's done you, Henry Higgins. It has. Now, I don't care that for your bullying and your big talk. I'll advertise it in your papers that the Duchess is only a flower girl that you taught, and she'll teach anybody to be a Duchess and just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. When I think of myself crawling under your feet and being trampled on and called names, when all the time I only had to lift up my finger to be as good as you, I could kick myself.
You damned impudent girl, you. But it's better than snivelling, better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles, isn't it? By George, Eliza, I say I'd make a woman of you, and I have. I like you like this.
Yes, turn around and make up to me now that I'm not afraid of you and can do without you.
Of course I do, you little fool. 5 minutes ago you were a millstone round my neck. Now you're a tower of strength, a consort battleship. You and I and Pickering will be 3 old bachelors together instead of 2 men and a silly girl.
The carriage is waiting, Eliza. Are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
Certainly not. He can't behave himself in church. He makes remarks all the time out loud on the clergyman's pronunciation.
Then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, by the way, Eliza, order a ham and Stilton cheese, will you? And buy me a pair of reindeer gloves, number 8s, and a tie to match that new suit of mine at Eel and Binman's. You can choose the color.
Buy them yourself.
I'm afraid you've spoiled that girl, Henry. But never mind, dear. I'll buy you the tie and gloves.
Oh, don't bother, Mother. She'll buy them for me, all right. Goodbye.
As we take our final bows, we want to thank you for watching the production and ask that you make a donation to a local theater to show your appreciation.
Huzzah, huzzah.
The very
You made it.
Henry, is there any of that brandy left?
I drank it all. Actually, no. Here is some